So guys, last Friday I saw Dune. I finally watched Dune. And to put it simply, I left the cinema speechless, completely lost for words, unable to fully comprehend what I just witnessed. To some of you that might sound like I'm overreacting, but to those of you who are of course familiar with Denis Villeneuve's previous work, you'll know that my reaction is completely justified. But anyways, I took the weekend off. I tactically took the weekend off to really let the film sink in before watching it again last night. And fingers crossed, I finally think I am ready to talk about Dune. Hello guys, what is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome to the Popcorn Podcast. I hope everyone is doing fantastic, as always. It is finally time for me to talk about one of my most anticipated films, not just of this year, but ever since it was first announced that the master, Mr. Denis Villeneuve, one of my all-time favorite filmmakers, was going to be bringing to life the groundbreaking best-selling science fiction novel by Frank Herbert, Dune. What is actually ironic about my personal relationship with this story is that I have never read any of the books. I've come very, very close to doing so, but this is a conscious decision that I've taken purely because I don't want to spoil it for myself. It's a decision that, believe me, has kept me wide awake at night ever since I first saw the trailer for this film. And as you can probably tell by my reaction already, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. So without further ado, let's get on into the review. Taking place in the far future of humanity, Dune tells the story of Paul Atreides, the heir of the Atreides house, who collectively find themselves tasked with the stewardship of the desert planet Arrakis, a world that is home to the most valuable substance in the universe, the spice. Soon, Paul enters down a path where he must fight to protect his family and his people from the malevolent forces of the Harkonnens, a clan that is as deceiving as they are brutal. In this epic galactic tale of prophecies, sandworms, the fight for power, the strength of family, and the inescapable presence of destiny, only those who can conquer their fear will survive. Okay, so like I mentioned before guys, Dune was one of my most anticipated films of the year. If you do want to check out my full list of my most anticipated films of 2021, I will leave a link to it in the description box down below. But anyways, I guess what I'm trying to say is my expectations for this film were sky high. And somehow, this film not only met my expectations, but surpassed them. The first sort of thing that I want to bring to attention isn't necessarily anything to do with the film internally, but more so how you can and should be watching this film. I was lucky enough to have early access to Dune a week earlier than, the UK release. So I would have been, able to get an early review out. It would have been great. But I specifically waited for the opportunity to experience this film in IMAX. The IMAX at London Leicester Square to be specific, which I think is the biggest IMAX in the country if I'm not mistaken. And my oh my, did it fucking pay off. The sheer size and scope of this film absolutely demands that you see it on the biggest screen that you can find, with the loudest sound speaker system that you can possibly find. Please guys, if you haven't seen Dune yet, by all means, stream it on HBO Max. But if you can, watch this thing in a cinema, in an IMAX theater. There are currently a lot of films being released right now. But if there was one that demands the theatrical experience, it is without a doubt Dune. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest, so let's talk about the movie then. One of the strongest aspects of Dune, if not the strongest aspect, is its approach to world building, because fuck me, this is some of the best world building that we've seen since the likes of, the great sci-fi fantasy stories of the past, like Star Wars, Game of Thrones, and of course The Lord of the Rings. Of course, the source material is very rich and very dense and has a lot to offer, but the world building is a trait that has for sure been developed and been brought on over from Denis Villeneuve's previous experience working on Blade Runner 2049. And just like 2049, Dune is a prime example of a film showcasing all its departments working in perfect harmony together, coming together to tell a story and create an experience that is nothing short of breathtaking. And you feel it from the very first frame until its last. This is a film that envelops you into its world. It takes a hold of you and never lets you go. You can feel the heat of the desert and the texture of the sand. Everything from the production and costume design, which is some of the best of the past decade, to the sound design, which is both wonderful and eerie. The score by Hans Zimmer, which is his best in years, which really works as this sonic foundation, which is essential for both the storytelling and world building as any other aspect. The mind-blowing special effects that take place, particularly with regards to the sandworms, which without a doubt are some of the most impressive CGI creations I have ever seen, to the absolutely stunning cinematography by Greg Fraser. All filmmaking aspects here in Dune are operating at the very apex of their game, with Denis Villeneuve in the director's chair bringing it all together. Some of you will already know this, but Denis Villeneuve has stated that this film has been his dream project ever since he read the novel when he was a kid. And it's really difficult to see why that isn't the case, because you feel it every second you are watching Dune. The level of thought and detail and consideration given to this story, to this world, to these characters, is something you rarely see in movies that are made today. The film, of course, features an all-star cast, which I'm sure you are no stranger to. Timothée Chalamet plays Paul Atreides, and I think he does an excellent job in this lead role. There's a lot that this character, has to go throughout the runtime of this film. A lot of shifting emotions, a lot of new, dangerous environments that constantly overwhelm him just as much they do us as the viewer. And I think Chalamet really proves that he is a more than worthy actor to really sort of delve into the psyche behind Paul Atreides as he is thrust down this great path of destiny. Rebecca Ferguson plays Lady Jessica, the mother of Paul Atreides, and once again she proves why she is one of my favourite actresses working today. She's brilliant. The first time I saw Dune last Friday night, it was a lot to take in for me. I was really trying to get to grips with this new world, but yesterday when I saw it for a second time, I was really able to focus in on more the relationships between the characters. And I came to the acknowledgement that this is first and foremost a story about a son and the relationship he has with his mother. And for me, that is the emotional core of Dune, the relationship between Paul Atreides and his mother, Lady Jessica. So if you are going to watch this film for a second time, let me know if you do feel the same, and if that sort of aspect of the film comes out a lot more than in the first time round. Speaking of which, one of my favorite scenes in the film takes place early on, where Paul is tested by the Bene Gesserit, this sisterhood of truthsayers, and if he fails the test, he dies. This was an iconic moment in the trailer, but seeing it come to fruition in the film, the tension in this scene was really nail-biting stuff, and just the way this scene was acted and directed and shot and edited is just masterful filmmaking, and another example amongst many of all aspects of this film coming together in perfect harmony. The rest of the supporting cast also do a really terrific job in their respective roles. Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Zendaya, who really isn't in the film that much, Stellan Skarsgård, who plays Baron Harkonnen, the main antagonist of the film, who was really unsettling to watch. So major props to the makeup department there, because fuck me, he looked revolting. Jason Momoa, I reckon, will probably be one of the fan favorites here coming out of this film. He absolutely kills it as Duncan Idaho. He's such a badass. And speaking of which, if there are any Game of Thrones fans out there who wish they could have seen a little more of Khal Drogo in action, this film fulfills your wish. But yeah, I know I'm forgetting a bunch of other actors, but really the entire cast here in Dune is on their A game. The only complaint that I would have for Dune, which to be honest isn't really a complaint at all, is the fact that this is only part one of the entire story. This is made very clear from the opening titles. So if you are going into this film expecting a fully realized, fully completed story with conclusions to all character arcs and storylines, that's not going to be the case here. To my knowledge, I think this film finishes a little over the halfway point of the entire story. So to those of you who might be a little disappointed, a little frustrated with this, just think, imagine if The Lord of the Rings was done in one film, or even two for that matter, or The Deathly Hallows was done in just the one film. When you have source material this rich and this dense, there is really no other way to properly tackle it other than spreading the story over more than one film. And as much as I was blue-balled when the credits hit and I was so obsessed with watching part 2 right then and there, I fully, wholeheartedly believe that this was for sure the correct decision. Guys, without a doubt, Dune is my favorite film of the year so far. My expectations, like I said, were sky high, and somehow Denis Villeneuve just comes in and surpasses them with flying colors. So of course, Dune gets an A+ from me. So guys, that basically wraps up some of my overall thoughts on Dune. To be honest, I could sit here for hours, but I would love to know what you thought of the film. Let me know in the comment section down below, and of course, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more reviews, more video essays. I'd very much appreciate it. But yeah, as always guys, thank you so much for checking out the video, and I will catch you very soon in the next.